conversations on developments around the financial markets and economy. Today is an interesting topic that we're going to discuss. We're looking at post-COVID-19, the role fintechs can play in supporting economic activities in Nigeria. With me to lead this conversation, joining us through Zoom, is Mr. Abolore Salami, founder of Riby. Good morning, Mr. Abolore.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Nice to have you. And with me in the studio is Mr. Bosun Omofaye, financial analyst, financial journalist, and CEO of Frontier Africa Reports. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, no, fintech is also a big thing for Mr. Bosun, so it's going to be a very interesting conversation. Mr. Abolore, how's the lockdown experience been, and as the easing is taking effect, what are your thoughts on the issues we've seen so far?
I think that happens to be the first comment now. Someone said that we should not go back to normal, but we should go back to the new normal. I think my comment is simply that even though the world, had subtle warning about this, we were not prepared. Nobody was prepared for this. Some of us are able to survive because of the nature of our.
So, Abolore, can you hear me? I think it's a slight connection challenge, and we'll hope to get him back on. But if you could hear his brief opening statement, Mr. Bosun, he's talking about the new normal. Yes, and survival because it's in the digital space.
I think the last time we had a profound impact like this on everyone was the aftermath of the 9/11 in the U.S., the hijacking and the bombing of the Twin Towers and the Pentagon as well. I think the world changed. I was looking at some images from some airports, international airports, this morning before I left home, and I saw the restaurants in which folks were sitting like more than 6 feet apart. And I said, this is amazing at airports and all that. Then if you look at the airports as well, post 9/11, there were a lot of strong restrictions and rules about, yes, you can come together, but then there were a lot of profiling, a lot of checks. You can't carry anything anything liquid up to this. You can't even take a bottled water onto a plane. You'll have to drop perfumes, a lot of other things. Or later, so okay, you can put them in what you call visible packets and things like that. I remember very well, some companies had to quickly start learning how to produce cosmetics and other things like toothpastes and other things, shaving gel and all of that in very small tubes like this, then put it together and they call them travel kits. Yeah. So it forms a new line of business for companies like L'Oreal, the rest of them that are there, even drug companies and what have you. So you now have to travel. Then you have to then came the issue of companies have to, airlines, without talking about your luggages. You now have to learn how to travel light. So companies started charging you for excess luggage and what have you. So there were a lot of changes, globally speaking, as folks decided to dress a little bit light when they are traveling, because if you fully dress up like me and all that, you have to remove virtually everything. You have to remove your shoes and all this were not there. If you have laptops, you got to bring them out. If you have phone, it was all keys, coins in your pockets. Even the coins becomes a suspect because it rings. It flags off when you pass through detectors at the airports. So, or to even some offices and all of that. Some companies have to start creating. They have to start putting metal detectors in hotels, restaurants, and other places.
Event conference centers.
Yes. You don't have to start sweeping people with certain metal detectors. So the metal detectors industry got a very big boom post 9/11. So for this one, I think the healthcare sector, the pharmaceuticals and all of that will have we'll see new line of business and changes. So it's a new normal to an abnormal situation in which the global supply chain, employment, governance, communication, interactions will change. We might not be able to get back to where we were as at December 31st, 2019, but then the world has taken a major turn. And speaking to fintech, which was the main
I think we have Abolore Salami now.
I guess it's back on the line.
Mr. Abolore, can you hear us now?
So, I mean,
yeah.
I think this is part of the lockdown issue because I have 3 different internet service providers, MTN, 9Mobile, and Fintechs, and all 3 are failing at the same time. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's just the level of preparedness we have as this corona issue has been so far.
And then, you know, this is a period, like he's talking about healthcare and pharmaceuticals, but this is a very interesting period for fintechs. Looking at the World Economic Forum recent article, they said that this is an opportunity to really drive digitization, and also the fintechs can play a big role in lending, in supporting particularly the informal sectors in economies like Africa and even in Asia. So, Mr. Abolore Salami, when you saw that crowd on the 4th of May in various banks across Lagos as a fintech leader, how did you feel? And also, what roles can your industry really play now in supporting particularly the informal sector, whether it's lending, whether financial services, it's become a very top issue to address now?
Okay, so, I mean, it's quite saddening, of course, seeing people risk their lives to that extent because, you know, they have to, you know, we're fighting 2 battles right now. We're fighting both an economic battle as well as a medical battle. So it's either you die by hunger virus or you die by coronavirus, but you have to choose one. You know, and I think that what we should do is to first think about, I like it when you say fintech, right? When I started, there was no fintech, it was just tech, right? It was just technology, and then they added the thing to it. So I think that it's a good opportunity for everybody in technology, not just the fintech, to begin to, you know, reevaluate their role in society. Say, hey, how do we change the story? The moment we knew there was going to be a lockdown, the moment I started getting a sense that there was going to be a lockdown, the first thing I did is, how do I get digital access to my money? Because I actually normally don't even have, even me as a tech person, I don't have digital access to a significant amount of money. Because I don't want somebody stopping me on the road and asking me, hey, Oga, let's go to the POS or let's go to the ATM. No. I don't want all of that. So even though I run the technology company, but that was the first thing I did, right? And I was quite lucky because I did it, you know, 2 days after the banks were closed. And I guess a lot of people who didn't know this, you know, were probably people that wanted, I wish we had a poll, you know, we had some data to be able to say, hey, you know, so people have written. Probably 70% of people on those streets were not there to collect money because agents were open all through the lockdown. They were probably there because they don't have an ATM card that expired. Somebody did an analysis that take every month 10% of all ATMs in Nigeria expire. Something like that, right? Yes. All of those kind of details we should know. And you know, it's not only for, you know, this opportunity is not only for fintech, it's also for education technology companies. It's also for health technology companies. A friend of mine, you know, one of our partners, raised $15 million during this COVID. Another one raised $10 million. Both of them were health technology companies. Yeah. Of course, with foreign investors. So it was a huge opportunity for them. Raising money is not a validation, but it's a good indicator of the opportunities that people are seeing. So education technology, health technology, distribution technology, right? Financial technology, all of the areas to reduce the physical contact between humans are of immense importance during this period. So I think first,
like we've lost him a bit, but I think we still get something clear.
Yes, I think it's important. I'm sure. I'm sure Abolore maybe had he hit the banks early enough before the closure. Perhaps he has hundreds of thousands to withdraw and keep at home and spend. But again, if you look at the majority of folks who are going back to the ATMs when the lockdowns were over, yes, there were problems. Some of them will try to fix as far as their accounts is concerned. Perhaps they did transactions that the money was taken from the account, but the recipient says, I didn't get the alert. I did a transaction, for example. I did withdrawals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. and he didn't get the alert of the deposit. So the systems were clogged. On one hand. Then on the second hand, also you have folks in the informal economy, informal markets or informal economy. If you look at the first week or so, yeah, folks will manage what they try to withdraw from ATMs. But again, cash beginning to dry out because they were not able to go to their work as a mechanic or a vulcanizer or a plumber or a furniture maker. So they will have to start depending on friends or those who are owing them. So if I'm owing my plumber, for example, and he says, well, Bosin, could you please send him 5,000, and it's sent to him, or some, how does he withdraw it? Online transaction will not allow him to get the cash. So some of them will be waiting until the lockdown is over to get some cash out. The fintech is there, but again, we need to still look at our culture moving forward, the culture and the nature of our own informal economy. An economy that is largely hand to mouth will continue to have a lot of challenges. Now, a number of these individuals that you see at the ATMs were having phones. They have mobile phones, but these mobile phones are not the type top end that you and I use, in which you can download Zoom or download GoToMeetings or apps. They're basically for call, receive, and 1 or 2 text messages. So it's impossible for them to do financial transactions on these phones. I mean, in terms of going online, make payment, make withdrawal, make transfers as the bank tellers would want to tell them. So they still need to go physically into a branch. And it's not only in Nigeria. I've read a few stories online that even in developed economies, as soon as the lockdowns were over, folks still go to the banking halls, even in Europe.
Abolore is back up now. Mr. Abolore, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So just, I know Mr. Bosa has made some comments that I think you've heard there. So let's have your thoughts and if you have some response to what Mr. Bosa has said too.
I mean, I completely agree with him in the sense that a lot of the time we have the right intent in the conversations, but we are not getting to the core or the crux of the matter. Just like you said, a lot of the big problems we're facing today is more around the preparedness of the majority of Nigerians. The type of source of income that our people are involved with today will not be able to withstand this kind of evidence. He said hand to mouth, I call it daily dependence, so most people call it daily dependent income. It's not even monthly dependent income. Maybe it can last for 1 month. It's a matter of the fact that if they're out of job for 2-3 days, there's already a problem. So, and that's coupled with the fact that most people are even making $2-3 a day. So someone making $2-3 a day and depends on a day, effectively we're saying people have $10 to $20 in their account. So we're in for a big problem if we don't begin to quickly deepen the industry. And this has nothing to do with technology, because technology only helps you automate what already exists. If it doesn't exist, technology cannot create. Now I'm talking about digital technology, not robotics or manufacturing. Yeah. So we need to go deep and say, how do we strengthen the informal sector? Of course, housing is a big problem. And housing doesn't only create houses, it also creates significant amount of jobs. The more houses you have, the more services, facility management you need for those houses. The more houses you are building, the more people you are employed on a more year basis. Plumbers, electricians, laborers, architects, so many people. Building a house requires about 20 different fields. So I think that deepening of the informal sector and the gradual formalization of the entire economy is as important as everything else you can talk about regarding technology or otherwise.
And I agree with that, but I think we can stretch it a bit further, which will help. Now, this is the point. If we have 4 of us as plumbers, what we do here in this environment, and I think to a large extent in a large part of Africa, is that we are all plumbers plying our trade from home, right? So we are largely in the informal market. So let's assume there's a company that does plumbing and employs the 4 of us. Okay, so it allows us to aggregate skills and everything, and so we go into the formal economy. Now, because we are plumbers and we work for a company that does plumbing business like you have in the UK or you have in developed countries, what you end up doing, what ends up happening is that now because we're employed as plumbers, our pay is better, is assured. There's a measure of job stability. Pension is assured. Decent wages. Labor issues are we're protected. Insurance is there for us while we're doing plumbing work and all of that. So this idea of one-man business in which Bosun is a plumber, Otto is a plumber, Precious is everybody's a plumber. Okay. Now, the issue there is that we're all flowing around the economy and trying to look for our daily bread. Mm-hmm. So we need to formalize our informal economy to a very large extent and help us resolve some of these problems. Because if we work for a plumbing company, there is data. It's better for fintech to help us. But when all 50,000 or 100,000 plumbers all work individually on their own, then there's a big problem. Because see, if it goes back to this daily wage or hand to mouth of a thing. So we need to set up what you call these vocational creative industries or businesses in a way that professionals or artisans can all work together rather than working individually. In silos, yeah. At the end of the day, fintech, like Abolore Salami is rightly put it, Abolore is not able to really help them because you are not aggregating the strength and the weaknesses of everyone. So everybody, we're all moving in, we're not working like ants. So we need to go back to this issue of let one person create a plumbing or a furniture business and employ 10, 20, 30, 40 people. Rather than trying to apply my trade as a furniture person, you're doing furniture, everybody's doing furniture. At the end of the day, you work for someone who doesn't pay you, you come to Bosun and start borrowing money to live on because you haven't been paid. All that will be seriously reduced.
That's a laudable.
The job market will be best for it.
It's very important. Yeah. I can hear you.
Also,
go on,
let
yes.
Me jump into what you just said there. And it's very powerful before you make your next point. Because, see, you need to understand the depth of what you just said. Imagine that all of the plumbers in Lagos are under 1, 2, maybe 3 umbrellas. Imagine what they can do. The firefighters fund, for example, in the US, it's a massive fund. The Nigerian police force, they have a cooperative. They have a massive microfinance bank. Imagine what they could do if they were truly well run. I don't know how well run they are. Look at how dilapidated the police are. It breaks my heart when I'm climbing down Palomar Bridge and I'm looking at the backyard of that, police barracks in Palomar roundabout.
Yes.
It's not well kept. Why is that not a nice housing estate for the police department? Now, if all of the plumbers were on one single platform, one single place, you can create products that meet their needs. You understand their income pattern. They have their own type of savings account because you understand, they make money maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a month. You will be able to see those patterns and be able to create products that meet their needs, as opposed to what it is today, like what it said. So formalizing the various informal trade sectors is something that we have been doing a lot of work with, and something that we think needs to receive national attention now. I hear that there's a bill about advancing how cooperatives are managed. That's an important step, a good step in the right direction. But the level of work that needs to be done is not receiving the kind of attention that I think it needs to receive. Let me clarify. We work with 3 big categories of people. We work with corporate organizations. So we're working with, for example, with Bank of Industry. We work with EFINA. We're supported by DFI, the State Foundation, and so on and so forth. Charging for software services that we provide to them. We work with middle-income earners, people that want to, their cooperatives, they want to build houses or access credit or things like that. But more importantly, 70-80% of people we work with, and of course, the 20% gives us 80% of our income. And I'm sure you understand why. $2 billion. But the remaining 80% of the people, in terms of the mass of people who are working, income people.
Can you hear me, Mr. Abolore? Okay. Yes, you can go on. Go on. You can go on. Can you hear me now? Okay, I think if we had... Okay.
One thought that I have here, and well said, what we could drive as a game changer. When we talk about financial inclusion, yes, everyone should have a bank account, and that's good. Everyone should have a micro pension, as the government has just put out under the current administration. Fantastic idea. Everyone should have an insurance. Micro insurance. That's fantastic. So a bank account, either microfinance bank or whatever, insurance, pension, and all of that. That looks very good. But again, the man who is having it is not within a formal or formalized economy. There's a problem still there.
Those micros were to target the informal.
Yes, it's to target the informal.
Micro pension.
Yes, but you target them better when you get them in clusters or into businesses. Okay. It's better done. The labor environment will be better. People will have decent wages. They will have recourse to law and the legal system. You understand? There is an insurance. Every bricklayer is trying to just be a bricklayer somewhere. But who provide insurance for him?
Which is very important.
Which is very important for him. Yes. What's the risk here? Who mitigates those risks for him? The guy doesn't want it. He's giving the job to the contractor. The contractors collect big money. He pays peanuts to the plumbers, to the bricklayers, and everybody. He's trying to get cheap labor, and these guys are exposed to all kind of vagaries. Then we come back and start giving them palliatives, and the palliatives, we don't even have a structure in terms of data or how it gets to who. Look, we have these guys in associations already. Lagos, at the last time I saw, I think about 2017, 2018, had thousands of professional associations with a net asset, as at 2017, 2018, close to 40 billion naira.
That's really massive.
In Lagos State alone.
Very massive.
So I quickly want to check with the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and see how many registered professional associations like barbers and tailors and Okada riders and plumbers and electricians and welders and all of these people. These are the folks at the bottom of the pyramid. The jobs of Abolore and the rest will be made easier. Banking services, understanding financial literacy, investment education, banking made easy. All of that will be lots easier when folks wake up in the morning and they pick up their toolkit and they are going to work in an office, as it were. Why do we look down on these people in terms of education for polytechnics to other schools, technical schools? It's because we see them as somebody who's going to come out and just be a one-man business. But
looking at them as people that will come out into
an organized system. So we keep producing folks into the general market. I'm sorry to use this. We're just like giving birth to children, like we just born and just give them away. We need to put them into job business. We need to use this opportunity, like you rightly said, to better formalize everything so that we have an advantage moving forward. It helps us to do population or census. It helps us to get data on who is where. Security is better managed, okay? You have a better hand on your security if you put...
And you also know how to lay out infrastructure.
And you know how to lay out infrastructure.
Very important, yeah.
So the entire financial inclusion is good with fintech in financial services. But if we are throwing fintech into financial services for one man who lives in a face me, I face you, and we're not trying to get him into a bit of a formal and this, he's going to still wear his overall with oil and all over it. Thanks. All of us cannot work in JP Morgan and First Bank and GT or Access. I understand. But give this man the opportunity to say he's going to work in a plumbing company or an electrical company, right? So he knows he's working for a firm rather than I'm just trying to find my hustle, Oga. So he decides to do a job that you can't verify. If he's not so good, how do you hold him? He moves from this street to the next street. You can't find him. You pay him. He doesn't deliver on time. You get there tomorrow. You can't find him. It is all mess. It's very messy around. Now, to even deal with a pandemic, you have no really idea where he lives. But he was in your house to repair your wash hand basin or whatever. Your feet. How do you trace him? But you need to know if he's working for so company. Then he has a call card. Then he's a bit decent. Then it makes tax even easier for the government to collect and to monitor. Yeah. All the way down the ladder.
Very important.
So fintech is good. But the government needs to understand that how we penetrate and how people respond to prevent these people going to banks at the same time and everybody can do online system, there's no trust and whatever. because folks, we have too many people in one man, face me, I face you business, or enterprise, as you call it.
Formalizing that sector is
Formalizing
very, very
our
important,
informal sector is the first step to even raise the game for fintech. The job will be far much easier.
Let's get
And the banks should also take note of that right now, because they seem to be talking more to people like Abolore and myself and yourself and Femi Awoyemi, rather than talking to those guys who are doing plumbing or roadside mechanic.
It must be very inclusive.
It must be inclusive.
Yeah, yeah. Mr. Abolore, in terms of products, in terms of innovation this period, across the globe, fintechs are working together to see how they can help this informal sector, the critical sectors of the economy. What products are you looking at with your colleagues in the industry that can really help to support the financial services for these people at the lower chain?
Yeah, I mean, to be frank with you, I don't think that there's yet any fintech, especially in Nigeria, that has any significant power to, impact the real change that I would love to see for the informal sector. And up to your outline here, if you don't mind me just changing it around a bit by saying three things. Number one, I think that this is a wake-up call for bankers committee, the central bank, and the federal government, and maybe the Ministry of Finance, to say, how do we truly prepare to serve the informal sector? The majority of Nigerians that are not covered by HMO because the company has paid for it, that are not covered by, I know the impact of how important HMO bill is, because I'm the one paying it for 60 people. Effectively 60 people are including.
Abolore has 60 people that he pays.
You are not among the bottom of the pyramid, so you're just at the middle class.
Okay,
nice one.
Just go on. You can go.
But I'm saying that, so number one, the level of government preparedness has to change. That's the thing. We cannot continue paying lip service. Financial inclusion has been reduced to opening bank account. It can no longer be that. And I think it's gradually changing. Financial inclusion, by my definition, is inclusion in economic activity that produces income that you can put in the bank. If it doesn't produce income, there's no need to open a bank account. Whatever that inclusion process is. Because you cannot include somebody financially who doesn't have finance. What are you including him in?
Well, the bank says you can open a bank account. The bank says you can open a bank account with zero money in it. That's financial inclusion.
So what? Oh, fantastic!
That's a step. Economic activities follows.
What a wonderful declaration. So what would I do with the account?
Well, it increases the number of account openings. I think I agree with him. Please go ahead, Abolore. If you don't include people in economic activity, then what is financial literacy?
I love banks. I'm not even going to blame the bank in this scenario yet. They know they are blamed and they are working to fix it. Right? But the account begins to go into negative. So the day I want to start using that bank account, I now see that my account is in minus 4,000. SMS charges 2,360 naira. Card charge 1,050 naira. This one that I've never used. I'm not talking theory, sir. Personal experience.
I understand.
Open the account. Our partner bank, we have not even used the account. We don't even know the account number. We were told that the account is in negative 20,000. We didn't even know the account number.
So you need to take from the account where there is money and put in the one where there is no money.
The second thing is we then need to critically formalize and structure the economy. Lagos has done a fantastic job. They actually have a compendium, like an entire book, of all the trade groups in Lagos.
Like you said, yeah. Yes, Abolore, can you hear me? You can go on, yeah.
Of trade groups. Better go. Let me just tell you.
Okay, so while he's trying to, but
yeah. I love the trade groups. I love the trade groups, but that's not enough. We have always had trade groups.
We can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Should I make my third point, or you want to go on?
Please go ahead.
Make your third point. Yeah.
Okay, and then the third point, and when I say trade group, I mean I don't mean just the trade groups. I mean every form of community that is the trade group, cooperative, companies already under either pension or FIRS or other forms of bank accounts or other forms of registration. But we need to be able to economically identify. Note that. Not just national ID or BVN. Economically identify every economically active member of society or member of society that should be economically active. Either you are a recent graduate, NYS is probably a good database that we need to continue, as opposed to just throw everybody and that's the end. Keep the database, use to track, people with jobs and people without jobs. Let's call it economic identifier. We need to create that. So either it's trade group or it's association or it's cooperative or it's company, whatever form of economic activity, you need to know when you are gainfully employed, if you are underemployed, if you are okay or not. And then lastly, we need to design or reorient our thinking around, what is investment in financial services or fintech. It shouldn't be about the banks. It shouldn't be about the finance technology companies just themselves. It should be about all of the activity that surrounds what they are doing. I'll give you an example. One of the partnerships that we have, so we do a lot of partnerships, joint venture, strategic collaborations in deploying our services. Otto, can you still hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Now, one of them is we partnered with a company that stocks shops, your mom and pop shop. So the shops, they close their shops, go to the market, buy their stock, bring it back to the shop, and stop that. All of that, put to a stop. The company will take your order either by phone call or by mobile app or WhatsApp or SMS and bring the stock to your shop. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what's fintech about that? Nothing is fintech about that. However, this shop needs to pay for that stock.
Yes.
Sometimes this shop might need credit. One of them reached out to me yesterday, who happens to be a friend that runs an e-commerce business, but also buys stock from this, large distributor that we partnered with. Say, I need 500,000. I need to quickly stock my shop. Guess where? In Togo. Anyways, what we have done is that we partner with this company. We automate all the financial steps and then improve their access to credit for all the mom and pop shops, corner store, Abokiman. That buy from, and now they are part of the form economy because there's a traceable transactional history to all of their buying and selling activities that I can lend against. I will not lend to them if they come to my platform just because they sell on stock. But now, because they're part of a structured platform, it's easier for me to be able to offer them digital and financial services in any form that they want to. So for me, I think these are the 3 key steps that we need to do. Once we do that, we're not just improving the economy, we're also attracting investment to not just the financial service providers, but also the businesses and the multi aspects of the economy that they are serving.
I agree completely. And the next step, for example, to add to what Abolore is doing, is it allows us to get more folks who are into innovation and creativity to explore the market street. When I mean market street, I mean go for listings and approach the equities market and begin to have small businesses, small companies that are exposed to customs trade. And that is another way to get it done. But as long as our informal economy or one-man business remains very, very huge, there's no incentive for folks to collaborate and seek partnerships and join hands together with a view to say, let us take this company or these businesses to the market and make it bigger. If you're not going to the stock exchange, you're going to the NESD, okay, for unlisted securities or over-the-counter markets. All of this will help. But you will not be able to build small businesses. If you look at the US, for example, and look at and China. Most of the companies that are coming for IPOs and all of that are not multi-billion-dollar companies. They are just small companies that are coming up. So the stream of IPOs in the Chinese market, in the US market, go and look at it. There are not companies that have made hundreds of billions already, as we would want to look at them here, that if you have $100 billion like Apple, whatever, then you can now come to the market. No. They provide, the environment is made in such a way that you and I set up whatever, and we move on and we list it on the market. But as long as everybody wants to stay in silos, regulation is difficult. When you have a pandemic like this, it's difficult to trace where Bosin and co lives, and all of that. Palliatives become difficult to deliver. Economic growth is difficult to collate. The job of National Bureau of Statistics become difficult. Okay, it's difficult to do market survey or do statistic or do poll or opinion or how to get everybody really on the same page. Yeah. So beyond the national identity management and what have you, we need to reduce the size of our informal economy. It's a problem. It makes infrastructure provision difficult. And it wastes infrastructure too quickly because everybody is on the streets at the same time. You don't need it. If you work in a plumbing company, I'm going to keep using that. If there are 5 of us, if there's a job today, see, your name is on the payroll. Yeah. So if the job for today is only 2 of us, the rest 3 of us will stay at home. But we'll still have our pay at the end of the month. But this, if you don't work, you don't chop, kind of economy in Africa and in Nigeria in general will not work. We cannot help us industrialize, cannot aggregate our brains, our potentials, to go into light manufacturing and other things, because we're all working in one man all around the place. We need to work together like ants, like a honeycomb. That's how we need to work. That's how we need to be structured moving forward. If we don't do that, we will never become industrialized in terms of manufacturing, construction, everything else that we're talking about. If we don't come together and find a way to structure us, and it makes the job of those who are in governance very, very easy. Even the policing, enforcement, community policing, looking for criminals, it makes it a lot easier. It just eases a lot of things for us.
Very sure.
That is the point here. And that is what fintech will raise fintech to a totally different level. And then it helps our infrastructure because we're now spread thin. Yeah, we're getting overstretched already. Everything we have on the ground is getting overstretched. Definitely. When we could as well use 1 stone to kill about 10 birds. It's just can't work. So we can be on this for the whole day. But I'm sure we don't have
this conversation has been very, very interesting. I must thank you, Mr. Abolore Salami. You've made some very, very key points. But I think where you and Mr. Bosomofaye agree is that we have to formalize the informal sector to enhance this digital financial services and also help the fintechs to really support where they can, partnering with the banks and other parts of the ecosystem. And we also really need to ensure that financial inclusion is about inclusion in economic activities, not just opening a bank account. Not just opening a bank account. And I know that with things like this, we'll continue to push this, and of course, policymakers will take it very importantly. Bankers Committee and all those in the regulatory space will take it seriously. Thank you very much, Mr. Abolore Salami, founder of Riby, for those solid nuggets you gave us on deepening the ecosystem financial activities, particularly ways that the environment can be enabled for fintechs to support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes. And Mr. Bosomofaye.
Thank you, my pleasure, Abolore.
Very nice
Thank
to have you here.
My pleasure.
Thank
you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Bosomofaye, CEO of Frontier Africa Reports. Thank you very much. And that will be all for today's conversation on the market review. Join us tomorrow again for another interesting conversation. But you can join our website, www.prosharenji.com, to get all our news stories, videos, and analysis on the financial market, economy, and of course, the impacts we're seeing from the pandemic at this time. Also, ProShare has packaged for you a very special platform, the Corona Central Watch, where you can get the world, national, and state tracker of the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's impacting our socioeconomic space. Log on to www.proshareng.com/COVID-19 to get all those details you need. Till we come your way again, thank you for watching. Have a nice day and stay safe.